If you're looking to buy a stacked NBA 2K account with max badges and more, visit sportstmb.com. He has been in the community for years and has hundreds of reviews. Click the first link in the description to get your account today.
The Most Improved Player is probably the most interesting NBA award in my eyes. The MVP is pretty self-explanatory, or at least it should be. Defensive Player of the Year is definitely self-explanatory. Coach of the Year almost always goes to the coach of the most surprising team in the NBA. It's why Greg Popovich hasn't won the award since 2014, because the Spurs haven't really been surprisingly good since then. Still good, but not surprisingly good. Rookie of the Year is pretty self-explanatory, unless Ben Simmons is involved. If that's the case, everyone freaks the fuck out and then makes the same shitty joke about how he should win Rookie of the Year every single year in the comment section of your Ben Simmons video. Anyways, the Most Improved Player race this year of all the other awards has probably got to be the most interesting race that there is. It's also the closest race that there's been so far. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is how it was to open the year last year, and because of that, it could become more clear as the season goes on. Originally, in the first 15 or so games last year, Zach LaVine was the front runner, averaging like 28 points on 50% shooting. And then of course it ended up being Pascal Siakam, who ironically is in this race again. We'll talk about that in a bit. But with this Most Improved Player race being pretty tight and having as many candidates as it does, I wanted to talk about those candidates and come to a way too early conclusion about who should win the award. So let's get into it. As I said, there are a handful of candidates this year for the Most Improved Player award, so let's name them. Pascal Siakam, Andrew Wiggins, Malcolm Brogdon, Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown, Aaron Baines, and Devin Booker. Yeah, that's a lot. Some of those guys are more deserving than others, and we will talk about that, but first I want to talk about the guys that some of you are probably outraged that I did not mention, even though you should not be. No, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Devonte Graham should not win Most Improved Player and should not even be considered for it. Second-year players do not win, nor should they win Most Improved Player. Second-year players are expected to make a big jump in their second year. LeBron James in his second year did not win Most Improved Player, and he went from 25-5 on 41% shooting to 27-7-8 on 47% shooting. Second-year players are expected to make a jump in their second year. That's just the nature of being a young player, especially a second-year player. If a player has shown some signs in their rookie year, they tend to get more opportunity and just get plain better with natural progression. I'm hesitant to give even third-year players consideration for Most Improved Player, so I definitely am not going to give it to a second-year guy. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been phenomenal. I was definitely wrong about thinking his ceiling was a much better George Hill. His offensive game is far better than I expected it to be, at least this early. But he shouldn't win Most Improved Player. Nor should Devonte Graham. I'm less surprised by Graham, unlike most people, because when I saw Graham at Kansas, I fully expected him to be the steal of the second round, and he seems to have been exactly that, putting up 18 points and 7 assists a game, but not Most Improved. And outside of my own opinion of second-year players winning Most Improved Player, since the award was created in 1985, only 6 players have won it as second-year players. And those guys were Gilbert Arenas on the Warriors in 2003, Don McLean of the Washington Bullets in 1994, Ronnie Sickley in 1990, Kevin Johnson in 1989, Kevin Duckworth in 1988, and Alvin Robertson in 1986. That is 6 of 34 people who have won the award, which is 18%. Math is fun. And you'll notice that only one player post-2000, Gilbert Arenas, has won it as a second-year player. The other 5 guys won it when the award was pretty early in its conception, back when people weren't quite sure what the criteria should be. So, the point is, it's pretty much impossible to win that award as a second-year player, and it so far has been impossible post-2003. So, rant over. Now I want to split the guys that I mentioned into 3 categories. Honorable mentions, who are guys who are in it right now but probably won't be solid candidates who are up there, but they're not at the top of the top, and of course, the legitimate candidates who I think could hold out for all year. For honorable mentions, we have Aaron Baines and Devin Booker, and then in solid candidates, we have Jaylen Brown, Brandon Ingram, and Andrew Wiggins, and then for the real candidates, we have Pascal Siakam, which is just wild, and Malcolm Brogdon. Now, real quick for honorable mentions, the reason that Aaron Baines is not in the solid candidate category, which he normally would be, is the fact that DeAndre Ayton is going to come back and take a decent chunk of his minutes. And I also think that Baines' success has come from a hot start. He isn't going to shoot 44% from 3 for the whole year. And the same thing goes for Devin Booker. It's all about the hot shooting for him. He is shooting 54, 50, 93 to open the year. That definitely won't keep up, so he'll fall off. And another thing about Baines is something that I've wanted to talk about with this award specifically, and that is actual improvement versus just more opportunity. How much of this award is actually getting better or just being given more opportunity to showcase your talents within the offense, getting more minutes, all those things. Like, let's take the example of CJ McCollum. In CJ's second year, he averaged 7 points in 16 minutes a game, shot very well from 3, and his per 36, he was putting up 16 a game. Then in the offseason, everyone and their fucking mother left the Blazers. Like, seriously, I left the Blazers in 2015. After that happened, he averaged 20 a game and won Most Improved Player. My question is, how much of that was CJ actually getting better versus there just being more minutes and more shots available? Like, I think it's fair to say that CJ was better than Wesley Matthews in his second year. We just didn't know that yet because he wasn't given the chance to prove it. This is kind of a similar case to Brandon Ingram, who I'm sure many of you are just furious that I did not put in the legit candidate section. But here's the deal. I personally feel that Brandon hasn't actually gotten better, he's just gotten more of an opportunity in New Orleans. When we take it back to the end of last season, when he was finally given a real unlimited opportunity, when they were falling out of the playoffs and LeBron was sitting out games, the guy put up pretty similar numbers to what he is doing right now. The 3-point percentage is a lot better. I expect it to drop to more like 37%. I really just think that this is a case of more opportunity, and I guarantee you those numbers go down when Zion comes back, because Zion will be the focal point of the Pelicans offense, as he should be, and then I expect Brandon's numbers to drop down to more like 22 points a game on the season, which is only a 4-point per game improvement, and that improvement will have come from more opportunity and not actually getting that much better, so that's why I only view him as a solid candidate. Andrew Wiggins is a unique case because I have a personal problem with giving him credit for what he's doing right now, and I expect at least a decent amount of people to feel the same way that I do, and that will prevent him from winning the award. I could be wrong about that, but we shall see, I guess. The problem I have is I really do not want to give Andrew Wiggins credit for not being trash anymore. It's basically like, okay, I don't know about you guys, but I was a good kid in elementary school. Didn't get into trouble, followed all the rules to a T, was a teacher's pet. Well, I was in the first couple of years. I was a gangster in 5th grade, as we all were. But at least up to 3rd grade, I was a goody two-shoes. And as we should all know, in most classrooms, or really just in any decent-sized group of people in real life, there's always at least one asshole who was disrespectful as hell, messed with the other students, never did his work, yelled at the teacher. Basically a shitty kid who probably had shitty parents. Now, as the good kid, because the teacher was used to me being a good kid, I was never really rewarded for it. But then this little shit kid does something right for fucking once, and he gets a gold star and a damn cookie. Bullshit. I wanted that fucking gold star and that cookie, Mrs. whatever the hell your name was. She's probably dead now. Basically, in this metaphor, Andrew Wiggins is that douchebag kid, and I do not want to reward that douchebag kid with a gold star for not being that douchebag kid. Wiggins has been trashed to no fault but his own, and now that they have someone in Minnesota who is specifically designing the system and coddling it around Wiggins and he is performing well, I don't want to reward him for that. So, that's my standpoint on Wiggins. Next we have Jaylen Brown. I really think that he is going to slow down, and actually, looking at his numbers, he kind of has already started to do so. His ball handling has gotten better, but realistically, he is a 17-point per game guy. That's about it. Next, we got to talk about the two top dogs, Malcolm Brogdon and Pascal Siakam, who again, it's crazy that he's here again. But let's start with Brogdon. Back when Brogdon signed with the Pacers in the offseason, I said this back when I failed failed to make a preseason preview video on every team in the NBA. Malcolm was the 4th scoring option for the Bucks. As the guy getting the 4th most shots, he averaged 15.6 points a game, shooting 50, 40, 90. He also was just getting 28 minutes a game. This year for the Pacers, he will have a bigger role in the offense and will be more important to the Pacers' success than he was to the Milwaukee Bucks' success. And as a result, he will be getting more shots. If Brogdon could get 15 points per game while being in the 50, 40, 90 club while being 4th in the pecking order, I think it's fair to say that he could put up 20 on average efficiency while being the 1st or 2nd option. So hey, I was right. The one thing I didn't expect to be as good as it is his passing. The thing is though, his passing isn't actually that much better, it's just that his ball handling has gotten so much better, which has made it easier for him to get into position to create. Now, unlike some people here, I do not think Victor Oladipo coming back is going to hurt his numbers. The opposite, in fact. Malcolm having a go-to scorer and shooter on the perimeter would help his passing, and having another perimeter guy the defense has to focus on would improve his percentages, specifically from 3. However, his statistical jump has not been as crazy as Pascal Siakam's, and spoiler alert, that's why I am picking Pascal Siakam to win the 2020 Most Improved Player Award. Siakam last year averaged 17, 7, and 3. This year he is averaging 25, 9, and 4. 8 more points per game. His field goal percentage has dipped a bit, but that's to be expected becoming a #1 option. The thing that has elevated Pascal so much is his 3-point shooting has gotten so much better. Last year, he shot 2.7 threes a game while shooting 37%. This year, he is shooting 6.2 threes a game, shooting 35.6%. Now, I understand that that is a drop in percentage, but he more than doubled his attempts and he only dropped down by 1.4%. And more importantly, if you actually watch the games, I know some of y'all don't do that, Siakam is taking way more threes off the dribble, way more of them being contested. He's just a lot more comfortable as a shooter than he used to be, and for the people that need those numbers, last year 97% of Siakam's threes were assisted, which is a crazy high number. This year only 68% of his threes were assisted, which is a 29% drop. He's also taken another step as a playmaker. Now normally I would say that a good chunk of this is more opportunity from Siakam, but 1, I don't think it's as high a percentage as anyone else that I mentioned, and 2, the Raptors are still winning games, so I think it's totally legitimate. So in conclusion, yeah, I choose Pascal Siakam to repeat as Most Improved Player. It's never been done before, and maybe it never will, so if that's the case, then obviously I choose Malcolm Brogdon. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.